Why does this happen only to me? What have I done to deserve this kind of treatment? Why do people behave with me so badly? Well, are these some of the questions that you often ponder upon? If the answer is yes, then I've got some bitter news for you. Perhaps this might be an indication that what you're suffering from is victim mentality. Now, what is victim mentality? Victim mentality is a condition where we often feel as if being victimized, where we feel that anything and everything that is happening in our life is not actually our own doing, but someone else is doing that against us. And because we suffer from victim mentality, we always believe that nothing is in my control. And that's the bad news. But the good news is that you can definitely do something about it. But the first thing is you need to realize that you are suffering from victim mentality. Unfortunately, when we go through victim mentality, we also have people around us which further kind of enhance the victim mentality in us because they also sympathize with us. And that makes us feel that, yes, what I'm thinking is absolutely correct because even others validate my thoughts. That's not true. And therefore, you got to take action. So, what is it that we can really do in a practical sense to overcome this feeling of victim mentality? Number one is self awareness. Now, that's easier said than done. But what is important is if you're going through a series of thoughts where you constantly believe that others are creating problems for you, it is others who are ill treating you, or if you feel that you're always being targeted and only bad things are happening to you, perhaps there is an opportunity for introspection. Because the moment you start with self awareness, you are ready to make the shift. Unfortunately, a lot of times, especially when people are going through a tough patch in their life, they are unable to look at their own thoughts. So it's important for you to start observing your own thoughts. And that will give you some idea whether you're actually feeling like a victim, blowing things out of proportion. Because the moment you take complete accountability for your own life, that's the beginning point of wisdom. And that is where change is actually likely to happen. Number two, focus on your circle of control or circle of influence. Now, what is a circle of control? These are things which are in your control, which means you can exercise substantial amount of impact if you try something in the context of the problems that you're facing. Or perhaps even if you exercise limited amount of control wherein you have more of influence, you can still do something about it. So start with things which you believe are under your control. Because if you start focusing on things which are not in your control or where you do not even exercise limited amount of influence, then it looks like hopelessness. And that's not a good starting point. So look at things which are in your control and start acting upon those things one at a time. And the moment you start solving your own problem, you get back your accountability towards your own life. And you can then design your life the way you want to. So looking at things from the lens of self-control and influence is a great idea. Number three, if you can't do it every time, seek support. Now, when I say seek support, it need not always be visiting a doctor or a psychiatrist and say, hey, you know what, treat me. I'm having this victim mentality. That's not necessary, to be honest. Sometimes it's as simple as talking to people whom you trust and whom you believe to give you good, solid advice. Sometimes seeking support could also mean that you ask your friends to observe you. And if you utter statements which indicate that you are hinting at victim mentality, perhaps they could stop you then and there. So there are basic things that you could do with the support of people in your life, and that could also go a long, long way in helping you address and overcome victim mentality. Number four is to leverage your inner strengths. Now, what do I mean by that? Often, victim mentality feeds when you only look at your weaknesses and areas of life where things aren't going good. And the more you look at things which aren't going good, you tend to believe that perhaps there is nothing good about me, there is nothing likable about me, and that's perhaps the reason people treat me in a particular way, or I'm destined to ill fate, All of these are a negative circle of thoughts. Now, the reason this happens quite often is because you're only looking at what is not working in your life. So perhaps it's an opportunity for you to look at what is actually working in your life and what are your core strengths. Because your core strengths will help you take yourself to the next leap, to the next step in your career, or perhaps even in your personal life. So, looking at what is working and looking at what strengths do you possess is actually a far, far practical way to deal with victim mentality. And last but not the least is to practice good old gratitude. Now, I know gratitude sounds like a very philosophical thought, but it's not. It's a very practical thought. So sometimes if you get stuck, you're not sure about where you're headed to, it's a good idea to take a piece of paper. On one side, write down things that you already have, and on the other side, perhaps things that you desire. In most cases, you'll find out that the things that you already have, like your body, your mind, your education, your experience, people in your life, will always be slightly more than what else you desire in your life. So, gratitude is a great feeling to have because it allows you to look at the sunshine. It allows you to look at what is working well in your life. And by doing that, you can also enhance further your self realization. So, these are some of the tips that you may want to apply to overcome victim mentality. Remember, sometimes it's okay to feel sorry for what has happened, but to dwell on that and to stay there forever is not such a great idea. So, the more you work towards getting rid of victim mentality, the better your self control becomes and the greater your self confidence becomes. So, try these. Which are the 5 tips that I shared with you? Number one is to build self awareness. Be aware of the fact that are you thinking like a victim? If yes, do something about it. Number two is to focus on your circle of control, and if not, at least your circle of influence. Number three is to seek support, people who are there in your life to help you, support you, take their assistance. Number four is to leverage on your inner strengths. And last but not the least is to practice good old gratitude. Try these, and I'm sure they will help you in some way or the other to both address and overcome victim mentality because you're not born to be a victim, you're born to be a winner. Wishing you all the very best. Thank you for listening.